evening. Thank you for joining us on Le Political Deep Dive or Deep
Ouais,
Dive
ouais.
Political.
Bon noir.
I am Dave, joined as always from Tennessee by AJ and from Queen Mary's land, Dan Fishman.
Je m'appelle Daniel.
Ramalama ding dong. All right, so we are in the first weekend of November. That means we had to
Change our
turn
clocks.
our clocks back an hour, which you're like, oh, you get an extra hour of sleep. You know what? It doesn't matter. Like the extra hour of sleep is great, and great that it happens on the weekend. But I know that spring forward is coming, so I'm going to lose that hour. So it's a wash. And now it's getting dark at 4:30.
Well, there's a couple fascinating things about this. So there is there's another podcast slightly see now that's interesting. You're drinking beer, dude. I am drinking coffee to stay awake because of the time
Coca-Cola.
change. Yeah, same thing. So there's another podcast. It's not as popular as ours, but they did a show on sleep and talking about how important sleep is. I think we talked about it. It's Joe Rogan. Maybe Rogan. But he had this guy who's a sleep expert on from the University of California, Berkeley, and talked about all these amazing things about sleep and things that, we know that when you sleep, your body heals faster than when you're awake. And anybody who's actually lived also knows this to be true. But there is nothing in your body that we can detect that indicates that you are asleep. There's no, like, if you took a blood test from somebody who's asleep, you wouldn't be able to look at their blood and say, oh, this person's asleep right now. So what is the magical thing that happens that heals? We don't know. But the one thing we do know is that the consequences of not sleeping are tremendously bad for your health. And one of the reasons why we know that is because of daylight savings time. We actually have an experiment where everybody loses an hour of sleep every year. It's not everybody, but it's like 1.5 billion people.
Yeah.
And what they found is that heart attack incident increases by 30% in the week after daylight savings time when everybody loses an hour of sleep. 30%. That's not a minor statistic.
Increase of accidents.
Yep, increase of accidents. Kids going to school, especially kids who are driving themselves, also accidents. Kids waiting for school buses, they all increase when everybody's lost this hour of sleep. Yeah. And at this point right now, this Monday, it's the safest day because everybody's well rested and they're alert, stuff like that. It's a really terrible idea. And if you look back at the reasons why we started doing daylight savings time, so I believe, Dave, you and I are both old enough to predate daylight savings time.
Do we? I think so. I thought no. Daylight savings time has been around since gosh, I want to say the Great Depression.
Oh, I don't think so. But let's see. Nope, you're right. 1918. I thought that for some reason I thought
I think it was World War I and more, the stuff that resulted from that. Wanting to say,
you have a secret to tell us, Dave?
That's how old I am.
I'm just saying.
I'm not that old yet. Damn, man.
I didn't say you. I didn't put you in there.
Yeah. So apparently, it did happen for. The first time it happened was World War I. However, in 73 is when it was set to what it is now. When it was extended for a period of time. So that is in both of our lifetimes.
For a while, well, depends on because November of 73 is when I was already like 4 months old. So
exactly.
No, I know that New York experimented with doing away with daylight savings time. The problem is they didn't adjust anybody's schedules.
Yeah.
So kids were waiting for the school bus. It was dark as hell. They're you know adjust people's schedules like that. That's the thing that I just don't understand. Go ahead and make school start a little bit later in the morning so the lights out and kids can be out in, may not
Well,
be sunshine, but it's at least the sun's up.
well, I mean, more than that, I mean, that's so much a factor of geography too, right? The
Sure,
further north you go, the less
days are
sunlight you
short.
have, etc.
Yeah.
Um, but there is, there's always a little bit of a movement to move us all to Zulu time or UTC, one 24-hour clock around the world, so that
Mhm.
if it's
Yeah, if it's one of
10:06 here, it's 10:06 everywhere in the world. The difference being that 10:06 in Indonesia, which I happen to know is 12 hours opposite us,
yeah,
10:06
place
p.m.
apart.
would be in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I think it's kind of stupid, but
yeah, I'm not a big fan of that because, I mean, you're having to adjust your schedules anyway.
right.
I'm okay with the time zones. I mean, they manipulate the time zones. Last time a significant manipulation of the time zones
Mm.
occurred was in 2000 when Kiribati moved the international date line so that they would be the first country to experience the New Year, which was
I've been
great.
there.
Canary in the coal mine when Y2K was happening. You're like,
Yes.
if Kiribati goes to shit, we know we're gonna have a bad night. But Kiribati did not, and we had a good New Year's that year. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to see us go to permanent daylight. Whatever the one is, let's
I don't
do one
care
more
which one it
spring
is.
forward.
I
One
don't
more
care
spring
which one it
forward.
is.
Yeah, it's the one more spring forward and just keep that time permanently because I'd rather have that hour in the evening, extra hour of daylight in the evening than the morning.
Yeah. I will be honest, the only time that it actually affects me that much is when I've worked third shift. It's awesome in spring ahead because then I get paid for a full hour that I
Yeah.
didn't work. I sit there
Hmm.
and watch the clock. I'm like, "Ooh, I just got paid." That's cool. That's the only time that it's really affected me a whole lot. I did notice this last week taking Colin to school, it didn't get light until we were nearly at school. So we got to
Right.
watch the
I mean,
sunrise, like,
really,
behind the high school.
but really, I mean, all you're doing is delaying that about 2, maybe 3 weeks because the day's still getting shorter all the way up until, December 21st. So it doesn't really make sense to, um manipulate the clocks and, for no real reason, no apparent reason,
Time isn't
nothing that's
real.
valid. It didn't even, like some of the economic reasons they gave was that, prevents, energy loss and, use of you're still dealing with same number of hours that are daylight versus nighttime. You're still having to use that, your oil and electricity during those times. Again, it didn't make sense then. It doesn't make sense now, and it's well past time that it happens, which means it will never happen when it comes to this
And if
Exactly. It's
our
about
legislation.
people
control.
could get their shit together and do
Well,
anything at
it
It doesn't
all,
matter.
it is interesting that some states have
toss it
successfully
out.
done it, right? Indiana and Arizona
Mhm.
Mhm.
don't do daylight savings time.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I had a coworker that she was like, "It's so weird for me when y'all change time," and I was like, "What do you mean when y'all change time?" And she was like, "We don't do that here." I was
yep,
like, "Oh, well, I didn't realize that was
we
a
all don't
thing
do
until
here.
her."
So I'm working with some people who are overseas, and their daylight savings time happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's not consistent
What?
across the globe. In fact,
Yep.
So weird.
it was more aligned a few years ago, and then there was a law passed in the United States that moved the date into November where it was in the middle of October for
Thanks,
most of the
Obama.
I
world.
remember that.
Yeah, most of the world observes it, like, in the middle of October. Um, at this point, just end it. Just
Yeah,
just go permanent daylight savings time or day whatever the other one is. Um,
free
and
clock.
yeah, stop this stupid time manipulation thing, like, 'cause time marches on. It's still doing its thing, so
Yep. As everybody knows, the days are long, but the years are short.
word.
All right. What's
Alright,
next?
so, y'all ready to go to Mongolia?
I am
Yeah.
ready to go to Mongolia.
Alright,
I'm
I'm gonna have
assuming
to
that
check.
if you've seen the movie Blazing Saddles, that's where Mongo is from.
Mongo.
Yes, played by Alex Karras.
Alex Karras, former
All
all-pro
pro.
defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions.
Exactly right.
He just passed away recently, didn't he?
He did, and Blazing Saddles is not his most famous role.
Yeah, he
He
was
was also the
Webster's
Webster.
dad. Yeah.
Yep, and he
Oh
was
my
in.
what?
Yep, he was Webster's dad, but he was also in the. Oh God, what is that movie with Burt Reynolds and Julie Andrews?
Cannonball Run?
No,
Was it? No.
Victor Victoria.
Oh, yeah.
Alex Karras is Burt Reynolds, and you would think that's an odd pairing, Burt Reynolds and Julie Andrews, but it's a great movie. I recommend Victor Victoria.
Yes, that is a good movie. All right, so Mongolia,
Let's
great country, and this
let's
is a
talk about
really
it.
cool. It's a cool video. Let me. So one of the things that I love about Mongolian culture is what is called Mongolian, and it really is a Central Asian thing. So there's different varieties all over the Central Asia, but throat singing. And then halfway through this, you'll start hearing an example of throat singing. I'm excited to share it. I'm going to use this next time I negotiate any salary because I think it would be kind of the intimidation level.
We have a friend who's in Mongolia right now,
Oh,
Michelle Darnell.
yeah.
Yep, she is
What?
currently in Mongolia, traveling from Ulaanbaatar to Olongoli, whatever is the big city in the west.
All right, man. I'm jealous. I really, really want to go to Mongolia. But here's Mongolia. Oh, there we go. Oh, did it freeze?
That's the wrong camera view.
There we go. So Mongolia, famous. What is going on with that?
For the steppe.
Yeah, well, Mongolia is famous for Genghis Khan, as you can see there. That's frozen.
Genghis
Let it go.
Khan
Let it.
and go ahead.
But yeah, so Genghis Khan, you see this big, massive statue that's to the east of the capital of Ulaanbaatar. Why are you doing this to me, computer?
Are you playing it on your own machine?
Yeah.
All right. I think next time we'll put it up to YouTube first as a Papa Duke production, and then you could like stream it, blah, 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 blah. But
What have you done to me, YouTube? Or
I will start by saying that area that Genghis Khan comes from, the high plains, is called the steppe, Steppe. And it's famous for a lot of things. But there's also a dance. And Texas has a double version of it called the Texas two-step. Sorry. I'll be here all week.
yeah. Let me try that again because that's
So
a damn.
we know, of course, Genghis Khan and his father or son, Kublai Khan.
Son. Well, actually,
Nephew.
Yeah, it's one
grandson.
Of there's Oglai, who succeeded him, and then
and Temujin is what he was called before he became.
Temujin was his real name. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Let's see. We'll try this again.
In Xanadu did Kublai Khan a stately pleasure dome erect.
There we go. All right. So that's Genghis Khan. Big statue that's built to the east of the capital, Ulaanbaatar. Of course, the Mongols had a massive empire that was stretched almost all of Asia from the 1200s until the 1400s when it became under Chinese domination until 1911 when the Manchus fell in China. They got their independence and they fought for their independence, got it in 1921 with the help of the Soviets, who were they were a constituent state of the Soviet Union up until 1990 when the Soviet Union finally fell. The country was massively reliant on the Soviet Union. Back when it fell, it really caused hardships in Mongolia because that was pretty much like 2/3 of their budget each year was from the Soviet Union. So here's the capital city of Ulaanbaatar. Really cool.
Looks pretty modern.
It looks pretty modern. About 900,000, over 900,000 people live here. out of the 3 point some odd million that live in Mongolia. Um, and here is the throat singing. Very cool. This is a horse festival, so it's still very focused on horse culture. Ever since the Soviet times, the Soviets really didn't like talking about Genghis Khan and um, considered him a non-Soviet revolutionary. So they kept it under wraps. Once the Soviet Union fell and the country reverted to a multi-party democracy, uh, really a wave of nationalism and recognizing Genghis Khan and the horse culture that is in Mongolia has reigned supreme. So they hold these Nandam horse races each year. It's really cool. And there's the flag. The flag. So the symbol on the flag is called the Sayambo. It is it's a representation of all the elements. So let's see, I've got it listed here. Fire at the top, sun, moon, earth, water, and then the kind of the yin and yang thing that's in the middle of the earth. Um, so that's the symbol, this national symbol of the great nation of Mongolia. It is a multi-party democracy now. There is a president. There is a prime minister. Prime minister holds more power than the president. President's largely ceremonial. The executive is run by the prime minister. Um, but two main parties. There's the Mongolian People's Party, which is kind of the descendant party of the old Communist Party. Although they've softened some of their positions, they're more socialist rather than full communist. Um, and more democratic socialism, the happy smiley face of socialism. The other main party is the Democratic Party, which is a center right party based on economic liberalism, but there is a hardcore Mongolian nationalist streak to that party. So there's a bunch of smaller parties. Currently, the party in power is the Mongolian People's Party. The president's socialist, the prime minister's socialist. They govern with the help of the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party, which is much more of a direct descent of the former communist regime, although they claim to be democratic socialists as well. Let me pronounce the names of the president.
Yay!
This is gonna be fun. If you play Scrabble, use the rules where you can use names because this will win you a lot of points. Uknagin Karasuk is the president, and Love Sanam Srain Ujun Eridane is the prime minister.
Nice.
That is a that is a mouthful. So, but you know what? Mongolia is a beautiful country. It's a lot of steppe. That scenery that you saw. They've gone through a lot of deforestation. There's not a whole lot of trees there. Um, uh, Most of the south is desert, the Gobi Desert. But beautiful steppe, large horse culture there. If you're into horses, Mongolia is a place to be. A lot of people go there. They go out, and it's still a large nomadic culture in the country. And if you've heard of yurts, which is these large circular tents that they use. One thing that if you were an American used to the creature comforts of home, staying in a yurt it sounds a lot of fun. But they fuel them by burning yak dung. So it's flammable. It works. May not be the best smelling thing in the world. I don't know what it smells like, but can't be. It's not like having a roaring fire with wood.
There are, I would recommend, if you can pull this up to the screen, Dave, people who want to learn a lot more about Mongolia. Julia Roberts filmed a special in Mongolia where she went and lived in a yurt for several months.
Really?
And yep.
That's
And
interesting.
Wow.
it was with people who live with wild horses of Mongolia. And so she drank horse milk and, she lived the real lifestyle. And it's one of the most amazing documentaries I've seen. So chances
That's
are
gonna be
pretty good you can see it for free on your local PBS station's website. There is here. I'll pop my screen open.
Oh, wait a minute. I popped
Yeah,
it up there. I just didn't pop it open. There we go.
right. So the wild horses of Mongolia. We can't recommend enough. It is, and like I said, she lived with no bathroom, no running water, no heat, but almost immediately becomes absorbed and becomes one of the family, and like starts helping out with chores and working, and being involved in childcare because that's something that she can do. Obviously she has, although she does have a love of horses, she is not prepared to run the horses down like the natives are doing to herd them and stuff like that. So that's an exceptional thing. And then one other thing I would ask you to share, Dave. Let me send you a link with a timestamp in it. There was a singer on Australia's Got Talent who did an amazing throat singing bit. And so I think we only need to watch about 30 seconds of this. Sorry, on Australia's Got Talent.
Oh, hold on a sec.
I hear it. Let's see it.
I hear it too. Hold on a sec. Let me move this.
Once.
All right. Well,
Yeah, that's enough.
they'll
We don't want
probably
to.
they'll probably
Yeah.
eat my broadcast.
Yeah, we don't want
That's
to get too
fine.
much into it. But if you look for Mongolian throat singing, Australia's Got Talent, or the Mongolian throat singing, The Voice, you can hear that whole thing. It's amazing.
It is. It's very so how they do it is you've got the guttural like that type of stuff that comes from the gut. They force but they force the air through their teeth to make that whistling sound.
Yeah.
And it's to represent like the elements, the winds and things like that. It is so fascinating to listen to. Yeah, anywhere on YouTube, throat singing to meditate to, and yeah, absolutely kind of get you in that zone. Really good stuff. I really love throat singing, whether it is Mongolian, Kazakhstani, Altaic,
The
all that.
Inuits do it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So good stuff. I really love Mongolia. I really want to go to Mongolia. Um,
Well, it's interesting because I think in 2019, maybe it was 20, yeah, the end of 2019, or the summer of 2019, the International Libertarian Association,
yeah,
which is a coalition of all the libertarian parties in the world, held their national conference, or their international conference, in Ulaanbaatar.
yep.
And they had invited our chair, who was Nick Sarwark at the time, to go. And I said to him, getting all the libertarians assembled in one spot sounds like a plot of the duopoly. Maybe you shouldn't go. And so he didn't.
Oh, I
But,
would.
well, you were on the LNC. We should have sent you.
No, not at that point. I was
Not
not.
in 2019?
No,
Right.
2020. I saw it. James Lark, Dr. James Lark, University of Virginia, longtime libertarian, longtime member of the LNC, and one of my, political heroes.
And one of the founders of Students for Liberty.
Yeah, really good dude. Ran well. He was the LP of the United States, his representative on that board for a long time. I always wanted to do the international stuff because the reason why I call like our Sundays where we don't have an official topic free for all, because I believe in freedom for everyone, not just because you're co-located in a boundary with me. So if you're wondering why I call it free for all, that's why it is. So all right. So thanks for South Park humor. I saw that. The Mongolians, you tear down my shitty wall.
That's funny. I don't think we're seeing those comments. Or are we
Yeah,
waiting for people?
when I share something, it takes all the comments that are there off.
Gotcha. All right,
So
so people should redo their comments.
yeah, keep on commenting. We'll comment. We'll talk about your comments. Appreciate everybody watching. Janice, James, Savina, you're awesome. You're both awesome. Craig, I
Heidi,
saw earlier. Heidi, thank you all so much. Do us a favor, give us a like on the whatever platform you're watching us from, whether
yep.
it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch.
Tag your friends, all
Yeah,
that stuff.
abduct your friend. No, I'm not gonna advocate crime.
Well, all right. So that's gonna. I know we're having a free for all, so let's talk about uh, the last time I've been tempted to abduct somebody, which is the Just Stop Oil people. You know, they've been doing a lot of protests around the world.
Oh yeah, they did the one at the Louvre, wasn't it? That they threw oil on a
Uh,
painting.
they did throw right. They threw oil on the Mona Lisa and some other great works of art.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, not just oil; it's actually oil paint. Uh, but mostly, what they've been doing is blocking roads, like they did at Burning Man and other things around that. And I've been thinking recently about. We talked about this last week,
hmm
right? I remember Chuck didn't like my solution. Uh, but what do you do? How do you respond to people who are stopping you from exercising your liberty to travel over a public road? What is the acceptable level of response to that?
throw a bag of weed out the window.
That would be that's not a terrible idea, but I don't think that would work well. What I've been thinking recently, and my suggestion last week was, in my truck, I always have 5 gallons of gasoline, and I could just pour the gasoline on them.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
that would
light it on fire, right? I'm not actually hurting them at that point in time.
yeah, but what if some dolt is there that accidentally set some or your engine.
Well, so I actually did see somebody do something like that where he backed his truck up and then revved the engine really hard, and then uh,
Scatter.
they didn't scatter, but like it filled the area with smoke and carbon monoxide
Ah,
and stuff like that.
okay.
And actually, I've seen people do that. That's actually an army tactic, so I'm guessing that he's done that. But the exhaust from an M1 Abrams is about 180 degrees, and they have to be very careful with it to not light things on fire. And at one point in a battle simulation, my cousin, who was a tank commander, they got to a point where they said they weren't going to let him through, and he's like, guys, if this were a real situation, not a real tank, I would just drive through. And they're like, yeah, but now you're not. So what are you going to do? He's like, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up and I'm going to crank the exhaust up on your wooden guard station, and it's going to catch on fire, or you can let me pass. And so as he backed up, and then they did. So
Negotiation.
yeah, Dr. Moulton is right that response should be proportional.
Yes.
But if somebody is restricting my liberty, can I restrict their liberty? So I thought about what you said last time, and I thought, I also travel with a bunch of zip ties. Mainly, I use them to, fix things and stuff like that. But if what happens when these people are blocking your way, uh, people will try to pull them out of the road. And then when they go back to get somebody else, those people will run back. How about if I pull them out of the way, the 5 or 6 of us pull them out of the way, and then we zip tie them to, a railing on the side of the road or something like that and restrain them there.
I mean, I think likely the charge would be false imprisonment, something along those lines.
But
At
they've
least
done the same thing to me, right?
they've blocked your way. They haven't trapped you in an area, correct?
Well, I mean, they're not.
Well, I
They've
mean, yeah,
blocked your way. You
you're on
can still
a
back
highway.
out and find another way.
Well, if you're on a highway, then
Yeah, you usually can't back out. I mean, most of the people that it happens to, they're stuck there for hours, right? A couple people died because the ambulance couldn't get through in one of their situations.
yeah.
What they're doing is not trivial. So my ability to uh, you know, I can put them out of the way and then say, you know what? I mean, because the thing is, I'm not handcuffing them there, right? I'm just zip tying them there. If somebody has the ability to cut a zip tie, they can get free. They're not really, and for that matter, zip ties you can break your way through in an hour of trying pretty easily. Just rub it against something and you'll get through it. It seems like a reasonable response to me, as opposed to,
I
some of
think
the other things that
prosecution.
are happening.
Can we back up just a second? Okay, so you carry gasoline and zip ties. What else do you have in your vehicle, Dan? Because do you have a good lawyer? Like, do you have somebody like, just in
Uh,
case? Because what the fuck, dude? You have so much stuff.
well, I mean, I would say,
Like if you carry a baseball bat, you carry a baseball glove. What is the equivalent with zip ties and gasoline? Like what is the
I mean,
I'm not here to kink shame. I'm here to kink ask why.
exactly. Right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just like,
Right. I'm here to kink ass and chew bubble gum while
There
I
you
bubble
go.
gum. But well, I mean, I think many people carry gasoline with them, as an extra tank or something like that. Especially for if you bring power tools with you to a location or something like that. So I generally have a
I drive
five.
a truck, so this wouldn't be me, but yeah.
Yeah. But and then zip ties. Zip ties are just so incredibly useful that I never want to be without them. And they're so small, right? I just have a little plastic bag like this big in a cubby.
And you don't
But
have to worry about losing the key
exactly.
if you are getting into some kink ass games.
But also like almost exactly a year ago, I was in an accident in Massachusetts. Wasn't my fault. I got rear-ended, knocked me into the car in front, but it knocked my bumper loose. I was able to attach it onto the truck with zip ties and drive all the way back home to Maryland. I can't tell you the number of times that zip ties have been remarkably practical for me. You
I
know
think
what
I
else I
think the
keep?
question is
I
in
keep
combination.
baby wipes in my truck.
Yes. Baby wipes are awesome.
Yeah, they're just so good at moving so many things. When
so
you're getting
much
to the
less nefarious. So much
Mhm.
less nefarious. I agree with the baby
I mean,
wipe.
it depends. I mean, there can be some
Right,
aftercare
right. I mean,
on
if
the
you need to
kink.
clean up some shit, baby wipes are where to go. um, what else do I have in the truck? That is, uh, I don't, for obvious reasons, have a firearm in the truck because that would be illegal. But uh, I might have one close at various points in time. But I would never use that to clear a path. Okay, that would be inappropriate. That would be a disproportionate level of response to somebody blocking the road.
I
On
still
the
see
other hand,
glasses in that way. So
am I required to allow these people to imprison me? I don't think so.
yeah, I don't think there's any good solution.
Well, there's not, but I didn't create the situation, and so
But it's also a good luck. Yeah, some of these people may not be the most robust individuals in the world, but you're also outnumbered in some cases. So I mean,
oh
yeah,
no 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 no, all the ones that I've seen, I mean, where what happens is there's 100 cars backed up, and
yeah,
that's when everybody gets out of their car and starts moving these people. And the problem is that they run back.
yep.
And I actually think it creates a more dangerous situation because they
Oh, it
run back
does.
while the cars are moving forward, stuff like that. Whereas if you had the zip ties and you just zip tied somebody to there's a couple other things that I've thought about. Like the one that happened in
Grabbing
at
their head and farting in their face. I think that works.
well, it's hard to do that on
That could
demand.
be assault.
But
It's salty.
the one that happened at Burning Man, right? That was in the middle of the desert. One of the things that I thought about was, here we are in the desert with the burning sun coming down, and these guys are sitting there with their sun hats and lots of water. Now, I would have
Yeah.
happily taken their hats and their water and said, okay, guys want to sit here and block our way, the very least, we're going to subject you to the desert sun for the 4 or 5 hours it's going to take. And I mean, that was a clusterfuck. It
I
comes
mean, Burning
down.
Man was a cluster because of the rain and all that crap that happened with it. But
Yep. Well,
yeah,
I mean, this happened on the way there, so it hadn't rained yet. But it's a good, I don't know. It's an interesting thing because as a society moves to a place where we are becoming more confrontational with each other,
oh yeah,
what is the level
absolutely.
of escalation that is appropriate? Because a lot of times these people are taking advantage of the fact that they feel like they're protected against escalation so that they can restrict your liberty and not have to worry about any consequences from you. And frankly, if the government actually prosecuted them for kidnapping, I think that we'd have an end to this problem. But it doesn't, right? They get little misdemeanors, none of them go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And
very hands off. I think that a proportional, and I hate to use police for anything because they don't have the best track record in the world.
right,
But
But this would
if
be
they
an
actually,
instance.
yeah, if they actually did something where they removed the protesters and moved them off of that area, then and restored the traffic to normal flow, that'd be great. But we've seen police just be hands off on this stuff.
I
well,
mean,
and
isn't that what the
I think it
highway patrol
serves.
is for?
it
Well, I
takes
Is
them
think
a
it
to
long
keep
time to
serves.
get there too.
Well, I also think it serves their. Well, no, you just go up the off ramp that's behind the protest, and you're there. But
yeah.
I think it serves the police politically for them to allow this to fester because then it makes people mad about the levels of crime and people getting away with stuff and being anti defund the police, which I think is complete horseshit. But
Right,
it feeds into the narrative that actually helps them. So there really is a perverse incentive not to help in those cases because anybody who dies on that looks worse on the protesters. Anybody who is inconvenienced about that, even the confrontations between the motorists, it serves their purposes because it makes it look like you know uh, we've let crime get too hard. We need to be much harder on crime in our cities, um, and it makes for better political outcomes for the people that support police.
right.
So
Well, but again, that comes to an interesting point too, because as a person who does support defunding the police, I think it's ridiculous that I have to use the police to deal with this situation when I am capable of dealing with this situation by myself. I mean, I have the capacity.
you
I
do,
Yeah,
but also, let's say they escalate.
because
And
so that's exactly it. They've already escalated it,
no,
right?
no, I'm saying beyond. I mean, standing in front of you is one thing, but
Right.
let's say you step out of your truck and they're going
And they
through.
attack.
Yeah, they attack. They have whatever they have with them, and they attack. And
Well,
I'm sure you're more than capable of defending yourself. But
but no, but that's an excellent point. Then they've committed a serious enough crime that there will be real consequences for them in terms of going to jail.
you would hope.
There, yeah, I mean, yeah, you would hope, but there is got to be. I just don't think we can have a society where one group of people gets to restrict the other groups of people's liberty with no consequences.
I,
Describe my state.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great example because you don't see
let's
don't
zip
stop
tie the
oil.
Tennessee legislature.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I'm going to jail for that one, probably. You can't threaten politicians.
I know a lawyer. Um,
I know a lawyer. I have Nick on speed dial.
Yeah,
And he's a public defender, which is
this
what
is
I'm
true.
going to need. And it leads into the topic of jury duty. Libertarians, if you get called for jury duty,
Go.
please do everything you can to serve, because when I get arrested, I'm going to need you there. And when you get arrested, you're going to need somebody like you on jury duty as well.
I've
Exactly.
never been called, shockingly enough.
I've been called twice, but I've never gotten to voir dire. So,
I've been called twice. Once was really interesting because it was all the way. We were actually impaneled. We went through a little bit of voir dire, but what happened was this guy who had done some terrible things, and I don't want to get into what the terrible things were that he'd done, but he thought he was going to be able to plea his way out of it to a much lesser crime. And so they actually had us all come and sit in the courtroom in the jury box. And then they brought him in there and said, "This is the jury that we have impaneled. We are ready to start this trial right now. This is your last chance to take our deal." And then he took it. So that was interesting.
On this episode of Scared Straight.
Exactly. And then I did get selected for a federal grand jury. And it was actually fascinating because it was the grand jury that sat on organized crime cases in Boston. So we would have seen every organized crime case. However, I did not get chosen for that jury.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it sucks in both ways. The thing about it is that it was every Thursday for essentially, it was in Boston. So for all intents and purposes, 10 hours a day. So you can't work that day. My boss wasn't thrilled about that. Oh, you know what it was too? It wasn't that. It was 4 days a week.
Oh, good God.
Yeah, it was insane. And, it pays $50 a day, but I can't pay my mortgage on $50 a day.
No.
I don't want to sound like a terrible person, but.
You remember that back in the day, and this isn't a grand jury duty, but there was, in California, there was a preschool where the owners had been accused of molesting children. And that trial went on for like 2 years or something like that. And those jurors were sequestered the entire time.
A friend of mine was on the David Koresh jury, and she was in for like 18 months.
Wow.
It's crazy. And what was it? I mean, it was lucky that it's very difficult to get out of that level of jury duty too. Criminal jury duty, there's some stuff to it, but the federal level, almost impossible. Like as they were going through the jury, so they brought in 100 people, and I was like number 85, and they started interviewing people one at a time, and there's no real objection because only the prosecutors make their case to a grand jury, and then the grand jury decides whether or not there's going to be a trial. So the prosecutors think you're acceptable, nobody can object to it. Then people who say, "I can't do it, I can't work, I can't miss work 4 days a week," they have to go up and talk to the judge and say why I can't. And so there were tons of people who were like, "I've got kids," and the judge would be like, "Do you have relatives? Anybody who can do this childcare?" And in general, that wasn't enough of an excuse to not have to sit on jury duty. It was pretty crazy. But I mean, it is one of the most important principles in our society, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be absolutely difficult for anyone that's not in a good financial place to do that. Just, of course.
Right.
No, and that's why a lot of times the way that they pick jury pools, they go after, of course, more responsible members of society. So a lot of places will do it by, voter registration. If you're voter registered and you are an active voter, you are kind of by definition a little more invested in your community. Tend to be a little bit more in an affluent situation. They tend to go after older populations, which are not technically peers. I mean, because a lot of crime is committed by younger people, and then you're on a all-white jury with, a bunch of blue hairs, and not blue hairs like the barista at Starbucks, but blue hairs and grandma and grandpa. So it is. It's not a perfect system. It's better than a lot of systems, but there's still a lot of iniquity in it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm reading the thing right now about grand jury. Grand jury, there's 23 people, so that technically not everybody has to be there every day. So if you had to have one day off, you could have a day off, and the other 22 people would be sufficient to look at informations and stuff like that. On the other hand, it's very clear about who can get out of it. Federal and state legislatures, military personnel documented by command as essential. All other eligible citizens are expected to report for jury service, including doctors, lawyers, police officers, and even judges.
I when I went to Atlanta, downtown Atlanta for I think it was Court of Appeals. Um, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, Karen Handel, who was the current at that point Georgia Secretary of State, walked in. And I thought she was just kind of going there to see people sitting doing jury duty, and nope, she was there for jury duty. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. You know, you're doing jury duty with us." She's like, "Yeah, it kind of makes it hard for us to ask people to do jury duty if we're not willing to serve ourselves." And I was like, "I respect that."
Yep.
She spent like a hot minute as a U.S. rep back in 2016, I think. She filled out the remainder of a term for Tom Price, and then I think John Ossoff won that seat, if I remember correctly. But
Interesting.
yeah, she was nice. I really I like Karen. I'm not sure I ascribe to her politics anymore, but she was at least a nice person.
And she was a Karen.
She was a Karen. All right, let's go to some sad news. This last week, a Alabama pastor and mayor of I can't remember what the name of the town is, but was outed by a conservative website called 1819 News. 1819 is the year that Alabama became a state, apparently. Um, but very conservative, very religious conservative, cultural conservative rag. Outed this guy who had, been mayor for several years, was actually visited by Donald Trump in 2019 because he was his town was hit by a tornado, and his response to everything that happened during that tornado, um, brought his leadership into, at least, it made him look good. But he was outed as having an online persona being dragged. And there are multiple levels to this story, because not only was he a mayor, but he was also a Baptist minister, pastor of a church that wasn't not the Southern Conference of Baptist Ministers, but a different offshoot of Baptist ministry, much more forgiving. And yeah, he was outed. Some sketchy stuff that happened, that he did, like he did fan fiction, and one of his fan fiction stories was not fantasized, but he wrote about kidnapping an actual woman who lived in his town, killing her and assuming her identity. Um, yeah, not the best thing in the world. It's still not illegal. Nothing that he really did in his personal life was illegal. But he was outed by this magazine on Friday afternoon. A welfare call was called on him. Sheriff's deputies found him on a road. They had a low speed chase. He got out of his vehicle and shot himself in the middle of the road. So he killed himself over this. Absolutely horrible story. I mean, I can't imagine having that kind of, that level of knowledge of my life getting out there like that. And I guess, to an extent, as a public individual, you do lose a lot of that ability to protect yourself. But it is still incredibly sad to see this. And that, especially in the South, especially Alabama, um, just being outed as drag, not even trans. I mean, he did have some trans fantasies, but never really indicated that he was actually gonna go fully transition. He was just drag.
Yeah.
And what we've turned that term into, especially in the American South, the conservative circles of this country, that you're assuming the worst about the individual just because of how they choose to live their life.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing because we know that there is a form of illusion that some people want to create so that they can live the lives that they truly want, but then pretend like that's the thing they hate the most. And
Yep.
it's really sad and heartbreaking that these people are confined by society, that they can't express themselves and have the lifestyle that would give them joy because of all this other bullshit that surrounds them, this culture. And the idea that we can't build a safe spot in the world for people to be the people that they want to be, that really is a sad statement for us. And it's something that all of us can actually address in our lives. Be happy when somebody you meet tells you something that's different about them. That's cool. That's a great thing to tell me. I'm happy to hear that. All of these things that you could show yourself to be a tolerant person and to be accepting. But instead, for this man, I can't actually see his name.
F.L. Copeland is his name.
For Mayor Copeland, he was confronted in this world where he had built a case where he seemed to be hypocritical, and as a result, he felt trapped in his life instead
Yeah,
of
yeah. He was
being able to
mayor.
find the way to be free.
It was Mayor Smith Station. The town is near Phoenix City in Alabama, and his pastorship was in Phoenix City. But this is him dressed up. What is so offensive about this? Now, I was reading this one article. Actually, it was a blog. I think it was called "The Friendly Atheist," who was bemoaning the fact that this guy was outed. Now, he said he didn't have hypocritical views of the LGBTQ plus community, and I think they missed the point of this. This wasn't done by members of the LGBTQ plus community. This was
Right.
done by conservatives, and he was hypocritical to them because there is an image that they think that all pastors should conform to, and that all mayors should conform to, especially the Republicans, that
Yeah.
they can't have this aspect of their lives, and they feel that that's the hypocrisy that. And to me, I think outing somebody. And look, I giggle at the stories about Lindsey Graham, because there are some fantastical stories about Lindsey Graham out there. I get that, but you know, I think outing somebody, even if they are anti-LGBTQ, I think is absolutely questionable.
Yeah.
That they're doing it on the other side, I think is just as questionable.
I mean, there was the whole history of outing in the beginning,
Mhm.
right? Of people who were, in gender sexual minority groups wanted other people to understand, look, it's not just us, right? It's all these celebrities,
Yeah.
Rock Hudson and other people, to show that, the 1 out of 10 number, which, I think that's a reasonable number. I actually have no idea.
I mean,
I
I think it's higher just because now we've gotten to, well,
what's
until the last few years, I think we've gotten to a point where we're okay with being honest with ourselves.
right.
I think sexuality is on a spectrum rather than being hardwired.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. I mean, I'm a strict behavioralist. people do what they learn makes them feel good,
Yep.
and they should always do that. And if something happens to you at some point in your life that you say, "This is what makes me happy," dude, chase that thing, or person, chase that thing. I don't want to use a gender
Don't
term
stop.
there. Yeah, exactly.
Consent
Be
culture. But yeah.
exactly. Consent culture. Chase the thing that you want, and recognize the fact too that life choices that you make today don't have to constrain you from making different life choices later. Okay. Everybody out there who's living a cis hetero life right now, you don't have to be that way the rest of your life if you don't want to. You can do whatever the hell makes you happy.
Yep.
There's no reason to stay, you know. I like to say, well, I don't like to say, Sigmund Freud said it first. He said, the only unnatural sexual act is to have none. Now,
That's fair.
I have been a single person and gone through some long dry spells, and it certainly didn't feel unnatural at the time. But the idea that everything that you want to do to express your own behavior, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, who cares? And we can address that by being, you know, good and accepting people and letting the world know I don't care
And even
about,
if you don't accept it, you don't have to butt yourself into someone else's life.
yeah,
Well, that
you
is the majority of the laws that are being passed.
Yeah.
It affects a certain population, and
And it's
that's
easy
it.
because they
And
are
it's
the
not
minority
saving
population.
anyone from anything. It's actually invading people's privacy.
right,
That's all that any of this actually does. This man wasn't hurting anyone.
yeah,
This man wasn't doing anything to
He was actually
anyone.
doing good in his
And over the course of the day, I didn't know until you and I had spoke that he was dead. All I had seen was, "Oh, this person was outed, and oh, this person," and then the comments. Some of it would be like, "Oh, he was such a hypocrite, da, 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 da." Other ones would be like, "Well, actually, he was a pedophile," and it was like, "Okay, we have no idea. Like, we do not actually know." But it doesn't seem like he was actually doing anything wrong. When it's
no,
all said and done, the rumors aside, it feels like his privacy was invaded, and that's what happened, and he couldn't live with it. How many children have had pretty similar experiences with online bullying? I mean, this
Sure.
isn't it just happens to be an adult this time. It happens to be a mayor and a Baptist preacher.
And for all
Um,
those people talking about, pedophilia, 'cause, that's the first thing they go
well,
to.
they use
And
that for anyone
yeah,
that's in the community that's not
and
straight, that they've gotta be a pedophile. No,
I had more concerns
eh,
about his pastoral work vis-a-vis that than his
pretty much.
drag dressing up online. Now, to an extent, yes, uh, his privacy was violated, but he also took those pictures and put them up online on a
Well,
private
I didn't
or on a
say it was
private forum, but
smart.
yeah, he was not smart. Um, if you're gonna do stuff and you're gonna wanna keep something secret, don't put it online. I don't
I
care
mean,
how
that's
I mean, look at all those dudes that were on, Ashley Madison. Look at, yeah, those pictures are probably all over the dark web. So don't do that. Don't do the dumb thing.
well, that's the deal
Yeah.
if this had been, a private thing between him and someone, but in that small of a town, like, I get that. I grew up in McMinnville, Tennessee. If you wanna look up the population, it ain't much. And it's a very small town. There have always been rumors of swinger parties and yada, yada, yada.
Of course.
Um, of course, but I get this. I completely get someone that's in the church, that's in the closet about anything, about
Oh,
what's true
sure.
to themselves, because the majority of us, we keep to ourselves. If we don't agree, um, I mean, there's not this great big population of non-Christians. It's not like we stand up or I will tell you that I love shopping on Sundays because no one else is there. Like, that's the town I live in. So I get him. I get it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, I hate that it happened. I hate that we live in a society where people can't have their space to let themselves do what they want to do,
Mhm.
especially within the political realm. I think we've made politics such a zero sum game that we're all being treated to the reward of zero, and yeah, it's just sad to see something like that happen, especially for this guy where he didn't do the things like you know, uh, pass anti-LGBTQ legislation or rail upon them. Yeah, there was a article that talked about how the church or that was talking about this whole situation and showed a tweet that was sent to the church saying, "Hey, are you open and inclusive?" And the church liked it. Like they were like, "Yes, come to our church." There were outside of the fact that it was conservative group outing someone who may have advertised himself as conservative, but you can be conservative in the traditional sense and still live a lifestyle that is not, church-based or I even hate to say church-based because there are people in the church that I guarantee you, if you're going to a church right now that's got more than and even if it's got less than 10 members, you've probably got somebody there that ha has something in their past, or even in their present. And it doesn't make them a wrong person. It, your opinion aside, if you don't like that lifestyle, don't do it. Dan, I think you're
So
on mute.
much of this problem, if everybody would just mind their own damn business,
Yes,
it's
mind your
amazing.
fucking business.
It's absolutely amazing how many problems would be solved with just minding your own damn business.
Mine is mind your own fucking business. MYOFB, bitch.
There's a great song by Casey Musgraves called "Mind Your Own Biscuits," and if you
Yes.
haven't heard it, I can't recommend enough. I know that everybody in Tennessee and West Virginia has heard that song,
Probably, yeah.
but for those of our listeners who happen to live outside of the heart of Appalachia, I would say check out Casey Musgraves. I mean, it's a great song, and some of the things she says, pissing on my grass won't make yours any greener.
Uh-huh.
It's
Amen.
true.
Uh, I love our mouthy ladies in country that we have this last like 10 years or so. Very, very cool. They show up to lots of things in Nashville. It's just amazing.
Because Dolly has been pretty outspoken this election cycle, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's not very happy with the treatment of trans people because Dolly has shown up to a drag show and there was a competition on the best Dolly Parton and she didn't win and had the best sense of humor about it because of course she did because she's Saint Dolly.
Yeah.
She is. I mean, I love
And
Dolly
most of
Parton.
her thing is mind your own business. It's
Mind your
it's
own
the easiest
business.
thing in the world.
Be kind. There's a quote. I almost didn't put it. I was going to put it on my Facebook page. Let me think about doing it. I expect to pass through this world but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness I can show to any fellow creature, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. It's Etienne de Grelette. And it's one of those things that, we are in this world and we can be anything we want. So why not be kind?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep, yep.
Let's quiz it up,
Dan,
baby.
are you ready for the quiz? Do
I'm ready for the quiz.
y'all have any question or news articles that you want to discuss?
I think I hit the things I wanted to talk about. AJ, did we hit your things?
Um, I do want to talk about my friend Stan,
Fancy.
Stanley
That's
St.
a big
Clair,
ass pick. It's backwards.
and
I'll post the
yeah, it's backwards. It's origins of cliches, proverbs, and figurative expressions. And I don't know, we have lots of like inquisitive viewers. I mean, Janice and James keep me kind of on my toes, and Craig is always good for a good cliche or whatnot. So
and this
anyway, Stan
90%.
has these.
Yeah, this is like
And
90%
there's
of my language is this stuff. So
yes. And this is my friend Stan. He lives here in Warren County. And this is what he does. He also owns a publishing company, but these are his books in particular. These have been used in colleges, college courses, and a couple of high schools
Can you read us
have
one out of
used
there?
them.
Is there like one in there that looks
Uh,
pretty good?
let's see. Here we go. Gung ho, excuse me. The expression is now accepted as meaning zealous and eager. It is Angelica's. Oh God, why did you make me read out
I'm
loud?
sorry.
Individually, these words mean work together. Gung ho became widely used in World War II as a slogan for U.S. Marines under General Evans Carlson.
Yeah.
In October 25th, 1943, Life carried this quip around a photo on page 6. The
That's
title of the
awesome.
picture will be Gung Ho, the Chinese motto which Colonel Carlson adopted as his own. The picture above shows Colonel Carlson as he met Randolph Scott. There you go.
Randolph Scott.
Oh, that word you were saying is anglicized, I believe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Anglicized version of the
Right.
Chinese
To
phrase, gung
say
ho.
it in English. There's a
It's
great
so much
movie.
fun to be somebody that reads so much, but I never read out loud, so I don't know how to pronounce anything.
There's a great movie called Gung Ho that stars, I believe, Michael Keaton, and deals with actually something that happened in Tennessee, where Toyota buys a manufacturing plant, a car manufacturing plant, and they all have to learn the Toyota way of doing
Oh, I
things.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Wow,
interesting.
that
And
is
I
interesting.
believe that there is a giant Toyota plant in Tennessee, right?
There's a Nissan plant.
That's the same thing. Sorry. um,
Oh.
Oh,
uh,
Dan's going to the gulag for re-education.
I'm only talking about the cars.
um,
Um,
oh,
all right. Wait, we got 9 out of 10
uh-oh.
already?
Wait a minute.
That's
Hold on a
last week's.
second. That was last week's. Stay
I
tuned.
was like, sir, have you been working on it this whole time?
There
Hey,
it
it's going to
is.
seem like a
For
genius.
November 2nd. All right. Let's do our
What
context clue.
kind of apple are you eating, Dan?
Fiji.
Ooh, we get
Fiji. I didn't think there were
Honeycrisp.
a lot of apples on the island nation of Fiji.
I
Or is that Fuji?
was going to show you Fuji is also a type of apple. I almost popped up a picture. I have a picture from our honeymoon where we went to Kiribati as well as Fiji. And so when it's available, I'll eat Fiji apples and drink Fiji water. Although I'm trying very hard to not drink water out of a plastic bottle anymore. Part of what I think
It's
I
not
can
going to end
do
up in
to
the ocean.
it,
Well,
it's
no,
it's
where you're at could end up in the Atlantic, like where I'm at, where they talk about
we
turning.
live in one of the countries in the world, one of the rare places where you can be assured that your tap water is unbelievably safe,
Yes,
unless you live in Jackson, Mississippi.
Detroit,
Um,
Flint,
no, Flint,
Michigan.
Michigan.
Flint, Michigan, right. But in general, your water is very heavily tested, stuff like
Yeah,
that. And bottled water is, I will say that I keep a 24 case, like one of those big cases that you buy at the house for whenever we have parties and friends of mine are leaving and I want them to have a water bottle to drive home with.
there you go.
But that's
Sweet.
about it.
All right, y'all ready for the quiz?
I'm ready.
Quiz for November 2nd. Context clues looks like Palestinians evacuating, Dia de los Muertos or Halloween, either one. I think it's Dia
See,
de los Muertos. And flooding of some sort.
I don't know where the flooding is. All
We'll
right, let's
figure it
go.
out. All right, let's do this. Question number 1. Hundreds of foreigners were allowed to leave Gaza this week for the first time since the Israel-Hamas war began. To which country did they flee?
I know
Syria,
that.
Egypt, Libya, or Yemen?
We can't see the people's comments
We
because I know Janice knows this one.
we can't.
Hey,
I've got
Janice.
it smaller so that we can
Okay,
see it. So we've got Heidi saying Egypt,
it is.
and it is Egypt.
It is Egypt.
They were walking like Egyptians. But I shouldn't make jokes about that. It's sad.
It is. It's oh, what does it say underneath here? I can't read it.
Injured Palestinians and hundreds of foreign nationals have started crossing into from Gaza into Egypt. Officials in Egyptian media said in the first exodus from the besieged enclaves in weeks.
Yeah.
Janice also got it.
Of course.
All right. Question number 2. Which Republican candidate recently dropped out of the 2024 presidential race? Mike Pence, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, or Tim Scott?
I
He's
know.
also known as Race Bannon from Johnny Quest.
Nice. Johnny, you and Raji go investigate what those choices were.
Ugh, gross.
I already got it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few that probably should drop out. Tim Scott, he's kind of the definition of low energy as far as his campaign's gone.
I think Scott is thinking that he can stick it out and get the vice presidency.
Yeah.
I mean, because for most of these people, they wouldn't consider any of the other candidates to be their vice president.
Yeah, but do you want to be Donald Trump's vice presidential candidate?
Donald
Knowing
Trump
what he put through.
Oh,
You know what
see?
happened to Pitts?
Yeah, exactly. But I was going to say too that we'll have to go back to that Asa Hutchinson
Yeah.
that I put in there. That's the thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is going to be in jail in March. I'm convinced. But I do really want to see the Ron DeSantis drag show.
Ron DeSantis drag show.
Yeah.
All right, question number 3. Fans and Hollywood stars are paying tribute to actor Matthew Perry following his untimely passing. Oh my God, really? What popular TV show did Perry star in? Man,
Friends.
I mean,
got a bunch of Gen Xers here, man.
he was in more shows. He was in more shows than just that, though.
He was, but that was
in.
his.
This
was.
is the one where he starred.
Yeah. Oh, this is truly sad news. Master debating in Florida.
Yep.
Oh, and news off of that that because Donald Trump is not going to appear again. Ron DeSantis said that he would do anything to get Donald Trump to debate, including wearing a boot on his head.
I saw that too.
I'm going to stop you. Vermin Supreme is the best presidential candidate ever. I'm going to let you finish, but Vermin Supreme is the best presidential candidate ever. So,
if I were Vermin, I would sue over that.
Yeah, copyright infringement. Got a couple right answers there.
Yeah.
Friends. Monica's a widow now.
It's
so you're saying she's available.
It is sad. Guy struggled with addiction. Drugs were clearly involved in his death, although he didn't die from an overdose.
They said there have been no drugs.
Yeah, they said
there hasn't even been the hint of it. I think he had a heart attack and drowned in his jacuzzi by himself.
Yeah, I think
which is the saddest fucking thing ever.
Even if that were true, I would make an argument that
yes,
exactly.
That's true.
In general, I think he was 54.
Yeah. He led a hard life. Did drugs
exactly. Your hard life leads you to susceptibility.
I mean,
for that.
Absolutely.
He even said, he goes, at my skinniest, that was pills. At my fattest, that was alcohol. When I had a goatee, that was lots of pills. And you can watch him throughout the show. Like if you watch reruns and you're like, oh,
yeah, he said a couple years ago that he doesn't remember a couple of years of filming that show, which sad. Drugs are a motherfucker. I mean, even I do think he was clean at the end.
Damage to his heart.
They said he was clean. He may have relapsed. I mean, that was what happened with Chris Farley, is that he had a relapse after going into rehab and tried to do the same amount of drugs he did right before he went into rehab, and
that ain't the way it works.
Blew out his heart. He may have relapsed, but I really think it was probably a heart attack that took him over. Just years of abuse on his body.
Yeah. Looking at a few headlines, Fox says he definitely did not have a heart attack.
Oh,
because they would have been able to diagnose that immediately. There would be markers in his blood,
Sure.
etc.
Yeah.
There is a toxicology report out that nobody's done yet. MSNBC 17 hours ago said he died last week at age 54 for reasons yet to be determined. So, who knows?
All right.
But
Question number 4. Which types of products were removed from Target, Rite Aid, and CVS this week due to bacterial concerns? I had not heard this one yet, but
I
toothpaste,
don't know.
vitamins, mouthwash, or eye drops.
I have no idea. Audience, do you know this, AJ?
No.
Maybe I heard this.
Either one
What
of
is
the,
it?
all 3 of the, or all 4 of these would be bad. I think eye drops would probably be worse.
Yeah, it's interesting
Oh,
because
we got. Did I guess it right? Oops. Heidi said first eye drops.
all right.
Janice
I
says eye
Said eye
drops.
drops.
I'm going to agree with that because if we're any of the other ones, it would have a much larger impact and we would have heard about it.
Sure.
So I agree. Eye drops.
Correct. At least 26 lifestyle
Nice.
products are being removed from several large retailers over concerns they could lead to serious eye infections, and you don't want that.
Nope. It's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye.
So, a few years ago, I had bleeding in my eye, and I had to get injections into my eye,
Mhm.
which is the worst thing ever.
Like
'Cause
you can see it because you have to be
you
conscious for it, right?
you're conscious. Yeah, they can't put you to sleep because your eyes roll back.
Right.
And you have to keep your eye completely incredibly straight because you move your eye while the needle's in there, it damages your eye.
Right.
But you actually hear it pierce the eye.
Yep.
I just
Some
get
pretty
cringy
crazy
even
shit.
thinking about it.
Like
And then
cataract surgery,
yeah,
right?
cataract surgery is different because I mean, a lot of times that's done with lasers. I think they can
I think they do shit. Well, I think that
shave it. Yeah,
the LASIX is done with lasers for
yeah,
sure.
but
But certainly in the old days, they used to cut a little slit on the side and push your lens out and then grind it down and then put it back in
yeah,
and put some stitches in
yeah.
to your
No,
eye.
just cut my eye out, remove it, do what you need to do, and then put it back in. I don't care if it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
It wasn't working to begin with.
I'll do the Sandy Duncan.
Yeah,
That's an obscure reference that nobody gets, except for you, Dave.
yeah. Question number 5: which popular lake in Europe was impacted by flooding this week?
Mhm.
Lake Como, Lake Geneva, Lake Brienz, or Lake Gienda?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go with the audience on this. It seems to me like that picture was pretty. I agree with you, Heidi.
Yeah,
Um,
we got one answer. Lake Como from Janice.
Lake Como is beautiful. It was featured in Star Wars, so that's good enough for me.
Uh-oh.
Geneva, but she's questioning that one.
I think we go with Janice,
All right, let's do Como.
even though it's the first
It
one.
could be. I mean, Geneva's a massive lake, but yeah, we'll do Como. Correct. A storm that
Nice
brought heavy
job.
rain and violent winds to northern Italy Tuesday sent rapid floods through the central Milan area and caused Lake Como to breach its banks.
Bum bum bum.
All right, way to go. Question number 6: which MLB won the World Series this week?
This I know.
This I know too. Although reportedly the least watched World Series ever, which makes sense because it's
Well, it's interesting too, right? It is the least watched World Series, not ever, obviously. There are many World Series before there was television. Those were the least watched.
sure.
Um,
In
however,
the television era.
right. However, also, they're saying that the Diamondbacks can still win if Mike Pence has enough courage to do the right thing.
Oh my goodness. Yep.
I'll be here all day.
Heidi and
Janice,
and
it
Janice
is
have the
the
right
Texas
answer.
Rangers.
Texas Rangers won their first uh, let's see, for our non-sports people, where did the Texas Rangers franchise originate?
Boy, I don't even know
It
that.
did not come to Arlington directly. It wasn't an expansion franchise to Arlington.
I'm from Texas too. Uh, let's see.
There have
Clearly
been
not the
3
Dodgers.
iterations of a team in this town, so.
Yeah.
And there are 2 current teams that were originally based in this town.
The Colt 45s are the Astros.
Yep.
It's not the Senators.
Mhm.
It's not Milwaukee. I don't know.
You're on it.
Was I?
So the original Washington Senators were moved from Washington to Minneapolis, became the Twins. The second they got an expansion franchise with the California Angels the same year, and were there until 1972 or so, and they were moved to Texas to become the Rangers. So the second Senators moved to
Second
Texas.
Senators. Interesting.
Yep.
So it's not the Bob Gibson Senators.
Did Bob Gibson play for the Senators? I think he played for
I think he did.
No, Warren Spahn would be
No, Warren Spahn played for the Boston Braves.
but I think his main years were in. No, he played for the Braves.
Dude, I got a Warren Spahn card here on my desk. Let me find it.
First in war, first in peace, last in the American League.
Nice.
That was the Washington Senators.
All right. Well, that's a good trivia question.
Yeah. What is the 3-digit mental health crisis line in the United States? 922-988, 303, or 377?
It's clearly not well publicized. I have no idea.
988.
Is it 988?
It is 988.
All right.
And I know recently it was kind of a buddy check month for the VA. So if you were in the military, check on your buddies. If they're having issues, tell them to call 988. That is the crisis line. They got a special line for for veterans to get services. So if you are having a mental health crisis, please call 988. Don't do the dumb thing.
There is, I assume you've seen this, Dave, and that you have not, AJ, a series called The IT Crowd.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Where they make fun of the British change their emergency number from what had been 999 because people didn't get it because they were always dialing 911 because there's so much of our culture that pushes through there. But then the joke was they changed it to like a 7-digit number.
God, did they really?
I don't know exactly how much of it is true, but in the IT crowd, they make it a 14-digit number with a song that's supposed to go along with it. And,
yeah, I mean, I think I remember hearing something about the British changing their number from a 3-digit number to something longer. And I'm like, you want something that's fast that people can just
remember.
I mean, why not just take 911?
Yeah, like, is it so bad to emulate? I mean, if there are things that you don't want to emulate from the Americans, I get that, but emergency services and an easily to remember number, probably better bet, you know?
Right. Yep.
All right, question number 8. Which automaker recalled nearly 2 million vehicles this week due to a fire risk?
I sort of know this.
It's Ford Pinto.
It's, I'll wait and let the audience guess.
I'm seeing red, which is a Toyota color. Oh, Honda too.
Everybody's got a red car. There's famously a little red Corvette.
This is true. Oh, Heidi says Ford. Heidi knows her vehicles.
Ooh, I think Heidi's wrong.
Does she? Is she?
I do. I think it's the Toyota RAV4.
Does that look like a RAV4 in the picture? Yeah, I guess you can make that case.
Let's see. Anybody else? I'll go with Heidi's choice.
You're going to make this whole week ride on Heidi, huh?
Well, there's a few more I could still get wrong. Anybody else in the audience chiming in?
Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? All
right. Let's go with Ford.
Toyota.
Oh, I couldn't have.
Oh, what a feeling. Oh, what a feeling.
Yes.
Okay. Question number 9. Which university recently fined over 37 million was fined by over 37 million by the Biden administration for misrepresenting the cost of its doctoral programs?
I hope that Trump University is the option.
Arizona State, Grand Canyon University, Stanford University, or Duke University. I'm going to say Grand Canyon.
I mean, it's got to be
Of
right.
these 3, I mean, Grand Canyon's probably got the most online presence. I mean, yes,
Right.
prestigious universities can do stupid things.
Right. But Stanford is free if you make under $400,000. If your family makes under $400,000 a year,
And you get in.
so yeah, Duke has that enormous endowment, tobacco money. Arizona State, famously the home of James Headache Smith and the enormous point shaving scandal that rocked college basketball.
Yeah.
So I think Grand Canyon University too.
Yeah, I mean, it's of the universities, probably the most online presence of any of those universities. So I'm going to say Grand Canyon. Anybody else got anything out there?
Yeah, picture looks like the Grand Canyon too.
Going one, going twice. It is the Grand Canyon University. 37.7 million, which
Yep. It's going to put them in a deep hole.
wow. I'm just mad I didn't think of that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Department of Education investigation concluded the private school in Phoenix. What is it with private schools in Phoenix? University of Phoenix as well. Misrepresented the cost of its doctoral programs. Interesting.
The University of Phoenix wasn't originally in Phoenix. They
University of Phoenix actually had sports teams as well at some point, because one of the most lopsided women's basketball games, I think, was a University of Phoenix branch in like Alabama or something, and they got blown out. It was like the highest scoring women's basketball game in history.
interesting.
But yeah, University of Phoenix, I think, was more named after the idea of the Phoenix Rising from ashes
Exactly.
rather than the city itself. Although they did name the football stadium there for a while, the University of Phoenix Stadium.
Because they had so much money.
Yeah. I mean, so fun fact, if you're in West Virginia and you get an education bachelor's from University of Phoenix, it does not count as educational credits towards being a teacher. So be careful. Do your research. Do your research. All right. Question number.
The irony of West Virginia saying you're not qualified to be a teacher here is
The
pretty
teaching
ironic.
requirements for up until recently, like to
Yep.
be a substitute teacher here in West Virginia, you had to have an education degree, which makes absolutely zero sense.
I mean, it used to be that right. The requirement was 22 teeth, and then they.
Damn, man. All right. Question number 10. In addition to Halloween, which holiday was celebrated this week? Diwali, Los Posadas, Dia de los Muertos, or Lunar New Year? I said it earlier.
We did. We saw the ad.
Dia de los
Picture.
Muertos.
Did you know? I can't remember which Bond movie it was, but it starts off with a big parade in Mexico City for Dia de los Muertos.
Oh, I do. I can't remember which one it was, though.
Yeah, it's one of the Daniel Craig ones.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that is that they didn't do a parade before that. They created the parade for the movie. And then ever since then, they do the parade. It's pretty a life emulating art.
There you go. All right, so we got 9 out of 10 this week.
Not bad.
We could have saved ourselves time because we got done at 10 last week. We just posted the score again. But
Exactly. Would have gotten a 10 out of 10 if it weren't for Heidi. So
yeah,
I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Heidi. Thanks for tuning in.
We love you, Heidi.
Get him, Heidi.
Yeah. And the if I were going to bet and I didn't know who recalled a vehicle, I would definitely bet Ford.
Yeah, because Ford,
right?
Found on dead.
Ford's right. It's an anagram for fix it again, Tony. Oh no, that's Fiat. Anyway,
right. So talk about speech making by one former Arkansas governor, Asa Hutchinson.
Yeah, let's play that. You're gonna have to fiddle around with it a little bit to get the video up, but it's awesome.
You said, oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on a second.
It's
that?
the one that is Fox News. It's the second Fox News one, not the one that starts
Ew,
video.
gross.
Hmm. Hold on a second. I don't know if that worked.
And I'll put this in context. It's the one that says has Hutchinson in the link. I'll put this in context. Asa Hutchinson, former governor, Republican governor, was addressing a freedom conference in Florida, and he made this speech, which caused him to be booed by the normally sycophantic crowd.
Well, this is not on this article that you shared. Um, there are a few presidential candidates got booed off the stage. Will Hurd, former Texas congressman, and Chris Christie as well.
Yeah, for saying similar things.
Yeah,
But this is the best one because you can hear the crowd really booing during the
yeah.
monologue.
I can't get it to play without an ad. Flow.
Okay.
So
Well, what you can do is start playing it without the ad and then share it after the ad. But don't worry about it. We'll get a better DJ at some point.
yeah, DJ sucks. But,
um,
yeah, so Asa Hutchinson made comments at a event, basically saying that Donald Trump's going to be in jail by March.
Yeah,
because he's a former federal prosecutor looking at the case. He thinks that it's a slam dunk that Trump's going to get convicted. Donald Trump is actually going to testify tomorrow in his own fraud trial in New York. If you're scoring at home, or even if you're by yourself, shout out to Keith Olbermann for that joke. This is the first of 4 different criminal trials. This one's a civil trial, the other one's a criminal. So, but last week there was testimony from his sons. He testifies tomorrow, but Asa Hutchinson thinks he's going to get convicted and be in jail. I don't disagree with that, although depends on who you get in the jury. You get one Trump nutter.
yeah.
Trumper nutter.
I believe that's a type of sandwich.
I
That
do.
includes
I think it's
peanuts,
peanut butter and guano.
Exactly. That's pretty funny.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to watch these candidates. Heard Christie called a crowd reprehensible for not listening to the truth, which
Yeah.
is not a good play if you're running for office. But I don't think those folks are going to vote for him anyway, and I don't think Christie has a chance in hell anyway.
And it's just nice hearing somebody say it.
I agree with all that, and there's a Mitt Romney book that came out this week as well. It's not a biography, or it's not an autobiography, but it's written by a guy on the Atlantic who had access to Romney to write all this stuff. And Romney was very straightforward with a lot of his comments and criticisms.
Yep.
One of the things he said about Rick Perry, he's like, Republicans ought not to run candidates who can't complete a sentence. He, I mean, and let's face it, Rick Perry was low wattage. I think most of us remember the debate where he said he wanted to get rid of 3 governmental departments and then couldn't name them and asked Ron Paul for help. But
you're going to reach out to somebody to name one.
He did also
maybe not now, but yeah.
Excuse me. He did also talk about Ted Cruz and said, Ted Cruz is this really smart guy, which is what Mitt Romney said, which makes it, more disappointing and disgusting that he would carry water for Trump, because
especially
anybody who's smart knows better.
Yeah, well, especially after what Trump did to him, one accusing his dad
of
and then
killing Kennedy,
calling his wife a dog. I mean, like,
yeah.
Well, we have
forgive that
footage of all of these people before Trump saying, "Oh no, he will be the worst thing that ever happened to this guy," and then after
Lindsey Graham getting his phone number doxed by, Rand Paul getting just absolutely excoriated by him, and they all lined up after him to kiss his ass. Like, it just, the whole thing about 2016 was so odd about the
Yeah,
Politics is such a grudge game.
it's such a sad commentary on our country
Yeah,
and our political system that everybody lines up to get a piece of the government teat.
yeah. Well, and what also extraordinarily sad about the whole thing is that Trump won by such a narrow margin. It wasn't like he, had a Reagan mandate coming out of the election that, you
Right.
won all but one state or the District of Columbia. Like that didn't happen. It was a very narrow win. There was no there were no coattails for him for those people to go begging after. They could have just stayed on the sidelines, stayed on their hands during that time, but they just embrace this stuff. It confounds me, but, to me, I think the Republican Party is irreparably damaged. Um, they may
Yeah.
even win this next election just because the economy is really going haywire, but
Yeah. It's tough though. So it's interesting because so for me right now where I live, and you probably got the same thing, right? All the Virginia ads showing up on
oh
your
my god,
television.
shut the fuck up.
There was so much money being spent, and it really does feel like it's going to turn on abortion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
In
that's
which
the
case, I think the Democrats are going to win. Which hopefully that's at least a little bit of a wake up call to the Republicans.
no.
You don't think so? I've been seeing a lot of
They didn't wake up when Kentucky voted against it. They didn't wake up when West Virginia voted against
Ohio.
abortion, Ohio, Kansas, for God's sakes.
Yep.
All these states that are just rock rib red states voting against these abortion and they're still trotting this bullshit out there, trying
Right.
to force it down everyone's throats. And they think that
Right.
this social conservative message is going to resonate when all it's really resonating with is their red base in these southern states, and not even to a great extent on some of these issues like abortion, that it's
Yeah.
just not a winner, and they think that they're taking advantage of it, and really they're digging their own grave.
It's interesting. I'm going to make a bold prediction here too. AOC is going to be primaried and will lose in
Ooh,
their primary.
I don't know. I think a lot of people invested now, Rashida Tlaib, I think that is something you can make a case on.
It's tough. People are spending a lot of money there, but her base is like her.
So local Somali
Yeah,
population there.
exactly.
I mean, it's a large Somali population in her district,
Right.
and
But AOC has a large Jewish population in her district.
yeah. But I really haven't paid much attention to what AOC has been saying, but I know Tlaib has been.
Yeah. She's been hardcore. I mean, she's been hardcore on from the river to the sea,
Yeah.
which, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough one, but, yeah.
Yeah.
They'll get primary. They won't you're not gonna see a situation like Santos where he takes a Democratic district. I mean, I think
No, 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 no Republicans. No Republicans going to win there. And what it comes down to, I mean, it's an interesting test for the Democratic Party. Can they keep other people from running in the primaries?
no.
Because, well, and do they want to? Right?
I mean,
If Nancy Pelosi had a choice, she'd get rid of Tlaib and AOC in a heartbeat.
well, here's the thing. Politics is I mean, it's a rough business.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything controversial there, but my sister ran for state house against a member of the Democratic leadership because that member had referred to the Hispanic Republican governor of New Mexico as that Mexican on the fourth floor, which is where the governor's office is of the roundhouse. And sorry for using that language, but that to me, she ran against her, got a little bit of help, but unions came out strong for her opponent in that
Opponent.
race,
Yeah.
and she's kind of been blacklisted by the Democratic Party since then. I think since that candidate now has been fired from her job and has done a lot of wrongdoing, is no longer a representative. Um, maybe there's room for Kara to run again, but yeah, you go against the party leadership and running somebody. No one's going to run that race unless they've got the party backing, at least on the back. Not
Right.
maybe not out front and
Yeah.
coming out with her. But
Although, I mean, you think about how AOC got elected, right? She
yeah,
defeated the party favorite.
she defeated the. I mean, it was a member of the leadership too.
Right, a member of leadership. Same thing with Ayanna Pressley, who, God, I can't remember the guy's name now, but my friend had run against him. But he was a very senior member
Yep.
of the Massachusetts delegation, very high up in leadership. So it's happened before. So could, long-term Democrats, is this where they get their party more in line? Because I think the Democrats worry a little bit that something like what's happened to the Republicans could happen to them, right? Because
Yeah, it could, and it has to an extent. I mean, they've got a wing that if the Democrats were in power, they'd be on the House side, they'd be dealing with the same thing with these guys, not
exactly,
probably to the
exactly.
same extent, but they'd be exerting more influence than anything. All right, you know what, guys? I drank 2 beers tonight, and I gotta pee.
And it's 12:41.
Yeah, it is
12:41 in
technically
real time.
12:41 in real time, but,
All right.
yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Please remember to like, subscribe, share,
Smash it.
invite your friends. And you know what? Guys, if you have suggestions for topics you want us to cover,
Yes.
throw them in the comments at some point in time.
Oh, country.
We would, yeah.
Country.
Let's pick country.
We're doing Sweden next time.
Interesting.
One of my favorite countries. I'll tell you why. So
They have a phenomenal sports program.
Yep.
In Sweden, both
no,
soccer,
it was not an IPA.
hockey.
It was a porter. Hershey's chocolate porter from Yuengling. It's delicious. So,
all right,
y'all.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Y'all have a great week. We'll talk to y'all next week.